Enneagram's powerful not just because of your number and that thing. It's interpersonal dynamics, it's team dynamics, it's where do you go towards stress? Where do you go towards growth? Of all of them that I've seen, this one landed the best and most when I read those things.
Welcome back to Life from Within. I'm Kelly Dwyer, your host. Today, I have with me Micah Mador. Micah is an ops, partnerships, and community consultant. He works in the private equity and venture capital industry. He's a startup community instigator and an outdoor enthusiast. He has led VC partnerships at Bolster. He ran the network and community at Foundry Group and was an associate at Techstars. And he also worked in Israel at a competitive intelligence startup named Signals. You can find him hiking, skiing, biking, reading, cooking, camping, backpacking, lounging in a hammock, and playing with his 2 dogs and son. Welcome, Micah.
Yeah, and now sons. I have a 3-month-old at home, so I need
right.
to update my bio for 2 dogs and 2 sons.
2X dad, 3-month-old.
Yeah.
He's 3 months old. That's amazing because I think when we last saw each other in person, which is what instigated this conversation, he was 4 weeks old.
Could be. I think I took the month off from community work and some consulting work. And I think, okay, 4 weeks, I can come back and go to a ski day. And we had a good small but mighty crew up there.
That's right. And so for those of you listening and watching, Micah and Lindsay started coloradostartups.org and they run startup ski days. And so that has been a fun event to go to in the winters. And they also do startup hikes. So that's what we do when it's not snowing.
Yeah. And really, I mean, I was excited about, one, just having a conversation with you, but the premise of this podcast of Life from Within and really lining up your career and work with yourself and internally and all of this. And it's something that I deeply resonate with. I'm working towards that. I wouldn't say I have it all completely figured out, but yeah, how do you bring your truest self? How do you show up as you in all circumstances? And so part of that, the impetus behind those ski days and hikes is, hey, let's give people an excuse to do something they want to do, skiing, hiking on a Friday, but give them a professional networking reason or excuse to feel good about it and not guilty. It's been so fun. I cannot believe it's been 5 years of doing those.
Oh, wow. 5 years.
Yeah.
I think I got on the train a year in. It's a great thing to look forward to. Okay, so we were on a ski lift and we started talking about the Enneagram and you mentioned that you're a 2 and you said something. I think you said, when I realized I was a 2, I guess I said, I guess I'm just a helper. Like describe to me your first reaction when you realized you were a 2.
I think I said it, but I think I showed it too. I said, oh, like shoulder shrug. I guess I'm just a 2. I guess I'm just a helper. I think going back, the context is helpful here of rediscovering that I'm a quote unquote 2 from the Enneagram test was the second time I took it. And it was 8 or 9 years after I took it for the first time. So I will answer your question, but I want to back up a tiny bit to my first time taking this Enneagram test was for a 3-day conscious leadership retreat with Sue Hallibronner from Merge Lane. And she was getting involved with the conscious leadership group. And she did a 3-day weekend retreat. And I was 20, 22, 23 years old. And some of my former bosses at Techstars were doing it. And so for me, I'm like, wow, these people with families and senior in their career, they're going to take 3 days. It was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They're going to use their weekend to do this thing. And I have the opportunity to join them. My company would give me some L&D budget to go do it. I'm like, go do it. So I feel so lucky that I was able to do that at 22 or 23 and learn this tool and learn this language. But when I did it, I came back as a 7, an enthusiast, and I was proud and it made sense. And I usually am skeptical, healthily skeptical about these personality assessments. Or I'm a unique butterfly. You can't pin me to one of 9 numbers, but I did. And I read it. I'm like, ooh, wow. Yeah, that's me. I'm an enthusiast. I'm passionate. The shadows make sense. And so I had a lot of pride in that identity. And so much so, Kelly, that when I went out on my own a little more than a year ago to do this consulting work, I named my consulting company Enthusiast Ventures, Enthusiast Consulting, because it was so core to my identity. And so I wanted to provide that as a backdrop to retaking this December of 2020 24, I think. Retook it and it came out a little bit stronger, the helper. And I had this reaction of, it wasn't shame, but it wasn't as overtly proud of rallying that around my identity. And so being the not black and white thinker than I am, and I'm not going to take it that I'm just a helper and I'm not an enthusiast, or I'm just an enthusiast and not a helper. So my marriage of those is I'm an enthusiastic helper, and actually consulting is a great place for that because I get paid to help people and to solve problems and to unblock things. I think of it as being an amplifier. And sure, if there's something that I feel so strongly that I have to go do, so this is startup and founder world. We know being a startup founder is hard. I always say, go do something you can't not do. Like you have to go be a founder because it's something that keeps nagging at you. You keep thinking in all your free time of this thing that you might as well go do it. And until or unless I find that thing, I love helping people. And I love being in the place that I'm in, that I get to interact and help other people unlock what they're working on.
I had a similar journey. Well, not a similar. I had a journey also getting to understanding what my number was. So I took, oh my God, I must have taken the Enneagram test, I don't know, 3 times. And every time I took it, it came up with a different number. And my top 3 were all kind of different. Yes, it was very confusing for me. There was a period of time where I was working for someone and she was like, you're a 6, you're a 6. And I was like, am I a 6? Am I a 6? And so I sat with that for a while. And I think what that really prompted for me, what I did is I then started digging into the books. Like, okay, I need to figure out, or I want to figure out what actually is my number. I don't want it to be that someone else is placing a number on me. I discovered, it was actually through the book, The Road Back to You. You know, the Enneagram can get very complex, right? You can go very deep. There are multiple layers. But the one thing that the book talked about was a childhood wound. And as soon as I read the 9, I was like, oh, I was like, okay, I think I'm a 9. And so then I started reading more about the 9. And I was like, oh, I don't want to be a 9.
Yep.
No, oh my God, I'm such a doormat. I don't want to be a 9. When you read about 9s, it's like, oh, they're so afraid of conflict and they go along with everyone else's agenda and blah, blah, blah. And there is that, right? There is that. It is very easy for me to accommodate.
Yeah,
right?
we've talked about before, and I'll credit, this was a college professor of mine. So not so often you remember the name of a college professor, Dr. Wayne Russell Boss, but I actually remember this lecture he gave and showing a bell curve. And he said, a weakness is usually an exaggeration of your strength. So I'll say that again. A weakness is usually an exaggeration of your strength. So if you think of being the active peacemaker and being like, oh, I'm such a doormat, or maybe at its total extreme, it becomes something that is, I'm an optimist and an enthusiast, so hard for me even to say weakness, a not strength. It tips to a not strength, but there's so much, I think, strength in all of that bell curve up until maybe you feel like a doormat, or at its extreme, maybe you are in some cases. But that's how I feel about both the enthusiast and the helper. I think me being a yes man. So again, yes, I want to help you. Yes, I'm not even, I will help you. I'm enthusiastic about like helping you, has led to every one of my professional opportunities to date. Cause I was like, I'll go do this thing. I'll volunteer. I'll show up. But where it tips over to, I think, a weakness or a shadow or something I have awareness of is when I'm saying yes to helping everyone else at the detriment of saying yes to myself or carving out my own priorities. So I'm acutely aware of that, and I've not nailed this yet, but there's an opportunity cost. By saying yes to you, helping you, am I saying no to me? And now with wife and kids and now I'm not just saying no to myself, I'm saying no to my family. Hey, you need help some weeknight of the thing. Cool, that's an opportunity cost. That's time I'm not going to put my kids to bed. I want to be really deliberate about that opportunity cost.
You're talking about the shadows, right? And so being the doormat or going along with everyone else's agenda is at the expense of even me taking the time and space to understand what I want is definitely a shadow. And it's something I've gotten much better with. In the Enneagram language, there's this thing called the harmonic triads. And ironically, or not so ironically, 2s, 7s, and 9s are in the positivity triad. And so the positivity triad, we want to look at what's possible. We want to look at, here's the silver lining of this situation. And then you've got the other folks on the Enneagram who are like, but you're not being realistic. You're not actually looking at what the problem is. And oh my God, it feels so awful. So you've got like a triad that is all about, we need to acknowledge the feelings related to this. They're sort of reactive to it. And then there's a whole nother triad that gets really heady about it. And we're like, well, this is the problem. Let's talk about the problem. Let's not talk about our feelings. And let's not talk about the silver linings. We need to talk about how to solve the problem, right? So when you take all of us together, we're a beautiful combination. But in isolation, we each, to your point, strength overdone is a weakness.
Yep. And I think that's where the Enneagram, and you sent me some excerpts from a book, and I haven't done as much discovery. I don't know all the mappings in my head by memory of, oh, you're at conflict with this. They must be a 6, or, you value different things. But I really do think that's where it gets super powerful, is interpersonal dynamics. So you have to do the work yourself. You have to know and read and sit with it for a little bit. And it maybe doesn't always need to be uncomfortable, but probably I'm a little more 2 than I am a 7 because I sat with it. It felt weird at first, but that probably was because it resonated more and I knew it held deeper truth. There's a cool tool, maybe you've heard of it, Cloverleaf, that you can put your Enneagram and other personality tests in, but then you do it with a team and it can map where your team is, or it can say, hey, Micah, you and Kelly have your monthly one-on-one or your project sync. Remember this about her and her type. And again, I think that's where it becomes really powerful, is when you're not just using it for self-awareness, you're using it for team performance, communication. So I've used that with a few teams. I could always use it more or better, but I think that is where it gets really cool.
Yeah, actually, I've been a Cloverleaf customer for many years. The previous podcast episode was with one of the co-founders and CEO, Darren Murner of Cloverleaf. So
I will have to go give that a listen. Yeah.
If anyone here is interested in Cloverleaf, go listen to that podcast.
The referral link. So if they sign up, that, maybe a future sponsor for the podcast. Come on, we're in podcast land.
Yeah. If you sign up with Cloverleaf, let them know I sent you. Yeah. So 2s, 7s, 9s. What I love about the Enneagram is it's not just a personality assessment. So many of the other personality assessments are sort of a snapshot in time. Mm-hmm. And the Enneagram can be used as a map for growth. And so one of the ways that I've been using the Enneagram, so we're a number. What's my dominant number? And that basically, it's just like, hey, what's my dominant strategy in life? My dominant strategy, according to Rizzo Hudson, they name me the peacemaker. The narrative Enneagram names me the mediator, right? And so my strategy is to de-escalate. My strategy is to understand everyone's perspectives and try to bring a more objective tone into and view into any conversation. I do that with teams when I'm working with them. I do that with individuals when I'm working with them. But for me, I've had to consciously work at being more comfortable with conflict. Because what I realized was peace at any cost. There is no such thing as true peace.
Yeah.
Because if there's external peace, but there's still conflict inside of me, there's still conflict. So I've learned, it's not okay for me to have conflict going on inside of me and me not want to bring it out for fear of upsetting someone, right?
Yeah, there's 2 things that makes me think of. One is this idea of brutal honesty, kindly delivered. A group I used to work with, the partners used to say that. And there could be some argument of, do you need to be brutal about being honest? That's kind of an aggressive word or term. But I like it, of hey, are we being radical candor? Are we just being really honest with each other, but doing it in a kind way? If you give me some hard feedback, I know you. I know it's coming from a good place. I know it's coming from a good heart. I will be so much more receptive to that than if someone is just yelling or a tirade or aggressive or whatever. So I think that the tone and the way you navigate that really matters. And then this idea of a withhold. Do you know that from conscious leadership, withhold, or the clearing model?
Well, explain it for people.
Yeah. So I think the idea of, I'm holding this thing inside of me, this conflict. You did this thing and I've thought about it a lot. And so you think of it once, maybe it's not a withhold. You think of it 2 or 3 times. You're like, okay, I value my relationship with Kelly, my friend, my community member, or my partner, or my colleague, or whatever. I'm going to introduce this idea. So you have to see, are they open to clearing? Hey, I have something I kind of want to clear. I've been thinking about. Is now a good time? Kelly, are you open to this conversation? And I have a book that actually goes through its 5 different steps for the clearing model. We'll link to it in show notes. But it's hey, you did this thing, state the facts. You showed up 2 minutes late to this podcast. Actually, that was me for everyone listening. I showed up 2 minutes late. That's a fact. That's inarguable. You look at the clock, 2 minutes, I was late. That made me feel like maybe this wasn't as important to you as it was to me. So I have a story about what that thing led me to. I wanted to just let you know that and get your side of the story. And you might say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. My dog and my kid, and that's why I was late, whatever. And I feel so bad. But give that opportunity, and doing it in that model or that container, so to speak, I think it makes it less threatening, hopefully. But you hear examples where then that kind of can blow up if people aren't above the line. Again, another conscious leadership of I'm open and curious. I'm above the line about this, which might be aspirational for some. And then below the line, I'm closed down, I'm defensive, I'm argumentative. So again, this shared nomenclature and language I felt is helpful for other people that have done the Enneagram, that are familiar with some of the conscious leadership or conscious leadership group terms.
Yeah, I mean, shared language is very helpful, especially with a team of people who are working together towards a common goal, right? So in my own experience on my journey to become more comfortable with conflict and more comfortable not withholding, so sharing my thoughts, feelings, and perspectives. I think when you're first learning how to do anything, it's going to feel awkward and you might be clumsy with it at times. And I think just because the setup might not be perfect, like the person on the other side might not be so open. The setup doesn't have to be perfect. The most important thing is that you check in with your own, check-in. Okay, is this a good enough time? How much pressure am I feeling to share this? Okay, so I'm going to share it. And it might not go as planned, and it might not have the outcome you're looking for. But what I have found, especially in terms of conflict avoidance, right? Interpersonal conflict we're talking about, is that even when it doesn't go well, I still feel so good about myself for having said what I needed to say, right? Even if the needle didn't move on anything externally, but internally, I have now taken that internal conflict and I've brought it out of myself and at least laid it out for something to be done with it at some point in time in the future.
You'll learn, or maybe you've already learned, I'm full of mantras or idioms or quotes all the time. This is another one from that same professor is never expect an unrecognized need to be met. So I think so many times we carry this thing with us of, I don't have this tool I need or this resource or this thing or whatever, but you're just saying it to yourself. You're not actually putting it out there. And then you maybe in your manager one-on-one, or maybe there's space in a one-on-one framework is there anything else we're leaving unsaid or any blockers? Yeah, actually, I need this thing to be more productive for my job. Cool. It's $20 a month. Go get it. Oh my gosh, you just unlocked this thing that I've been carrying around, but I never articulated it. I never put it out there. So yeah, no one's looking to proactively solve all your problems for you. You have to put something out there.
Yeah, taking responsibility rather than, let's say, venting or complaining. So for an Enneagram 9, and I'd be curious to know what it's like for an Enneagram 2, but for an Enneagram 9, frequently we don't even know what we want. So it's very easy for me to see everyone else's perspective in something, but there are times where I don't even know what I think about it or how I feel about it. And so I've had to develop introspective methods to be consciously asking myself, what do I need here? What do I want? What's important for me to say? Like, I actually have to say that to myself. It's not automatically at the tip of my fingers.
Yeah. Again, I don't know if this is a type 2/7 thing or just a me thing too. Of my wife calls it devil's advocate. You're just doing that just to play the other side just because you can. But pretty good at that and have kind of that natural empathy or EQ. I can see this side. I can see this side. I can be curious about both of those. But again, what do you think? And when you're in the consulting world or the coaching world, we're not necessarily hired because we have all the answers. It's that we have frameworks and tools usually to help them unlock the answer that they have. They're the subject matter expert on their business or themselves.
You know how I said earlier, the Rizzo Hudson names the 9 the peacemaker, and the narrative Enneagram names the 9 the mediator. So the Rizzo Hudson names the 2 the helper. The narrative Enneagram names the 2 the giver. How do you know when you're giving too much, Micah?
Ooh, that's a good one. And especially for those in the Colorado ecosystem or around kind of the Techstars and Foundry world where I came up from, of this idea of give first is all over. And for those that don't know a definition of give first, you give without an expectation of receiving something transactional in return. It's not altruism. It's not just that I'm giving because I want to be above reproach and just totally selfless. I expect, you put good things out in the universe, you get good things back, but it's not, hey, I helped Kelly with something. I'm now keeping score that, hey, has Kelly helped me about as much as I've helped her? No, it's not like that at all. It's more of the karmic understanding of you do good things will come back. This is a hard one. Again, it's that shadow or that other side of saying yes too much or that bell curve. It's not something I've nailed. It's something I'm trying to be more aware of, that opportunity cost of I'm giving, I'm helping. Also, it's asking for help, right? So it's so funny. It's not that I'm afraid or uncomfortable asking for help generally, but similar to maybe the conflict, it's something I need to flex more. I think I have this default to, I can do it. Just power through it. I would jump at the opportunity to help someone with something that they know. And so I have to remind myself too of, you could frame it as, hey, you're giving someone the opportunity to help you. It's a mutual serotonin dopamine hit that you're now depriving other people in your network from helping when they'd love that, especially for someone like you that helps out a lot. So I've had to learn to try to activate that a little bit more. I think community service is a good example of this, as you know, and that's kind of where we met. I volunteer and give a lot of time hosting events, and they're fun. They're ski days, they're hikes. That's my justification of this. They're happy hours, welcoming people to the Boulder startup community. At a certain point, and I think Brad Feld said this in one of his startup community books or his Give First book, which are both great to check out for community builders, of you can't feed yourself on Give First. So you have to maybe have some awareness of, does this kind of help fuel other aspects of my business or life or world? You can't feed yourself being a free community volunteer if you do that full time. Maybe you can if are independently wealthy or had a great exit and just wants to help. Great for those people. But it's a balance. And maybe you're thinking of this metaphor, talking to a therapist that I talk with regularly, and he stopped me. I was explaining some stressful situations or something. He's like, wow, Micah, it seems like you have a really high tolerance or threshold to stress or chaos or ambiguity. Let me try a metaphor out. This someone in Boulder. So again, the very fit of, it's like you're a Gore-Tex jacket and all those beads of stress or ambiguity or chaos, they just kind of hit you and roll off. And I'm like, interesting. I resonate with that. I like the outdoors. I have some decent gear and jackets, but let me add a asterisk caveat. Okay, great. I have that jacket. I have a high tolerance until I've been out in the rainstorm for hours or a day, and multiple people have offered me an umbrella or shelter or to come in. I'm like, no, I'm good. And then I look down and I'm soaked through that Gore-Tex jacket. Again, it's that weakness and strength. I think I do have a high tolerance, but at a certain point, take the umbrella, take your friend offering you shelter in their car or whatever. That visually stuck with me, that I still think about often.
Have you explored what's driving the, I'm going to stay out in the rain? No, I'm good until you are soaked?
A little bit. I think there's a good question of what's at stake. I think that's a good probing question. What's at stake if you accept help? Do you feel lesser? Do you feel defeated? Do you feel like a failure that you need help? The answer, at least the gut reaction, is no on all those. No, everyone needs a little help. We can all accomplish more with others. Everyone got help from others, whether they acknowledge or consciously or not. So I think that's really actually a good exploration of what is it about, like, why is that your de facto to just shoulder it and do it?
Like I said before, we have a dominant number, but we all have all the numbers in us, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're holistic in that way. And so the 8 is notorious for not asking for help. Right? Shouldering it all themselves until they put themselves into the hospital. Right?
Yep.
So that could be, your version, your flavor of the 8 coming through in those moments.
There's like parts work for IFS for anyone who's looked into that of like, we are all these parts. It's which one is coming out or which part are you talking to or with that are always there. It's just which ones are dominant in any given situation.
Yeah. I haven't figured my way through this yet, but this whole concept of what do I choose to give my energy to, whether it's unpaid or paid, right?
Yep.
Because what I have learned is that when I say yes to something, it's hard for me to extricate myself until it's done. Energetically, it's like the energy is committed and see it through and grin and bear it if need be, but until it's done, right? Until it's naturally come to its conclusion. Now, that's not always the case. Sometimes you can pull the ripcord and get out, but that's what I've learned about myself. And so before saying yes, I've had to ask the question of, okay, is this really something that is the right thing for me to say yes to? And I think discerning what other people want from you, or in my case, discerning what other people really want from me. If they're asking for me to commit to something, what is it that they want? Do they want my perspective, or do they want my workhorse energy in service of their vision? And when I was younger, I was very happy to provide my workhorse energy because I have a lot of stamina and a lot of energy when I choose to apply it. But over time, I started to realize that me committing my workhorse energy to someone else's vision is not fulfilling. It doesn't feel fulfilling for me. But then I'm faced with the conundrum of, oh, well, what's my vision? And here I am in my 9-ness, like, I don't know what I want. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, until you figure that out, kind of like the helper, until I figure out the thing I need to go found or go do because I can't stop thinking about it. Again, I've stepped into pride rather than kind of the shoulder shrug of, wow, I'm an amplifier. I'm an aggregator. I can help them unlock. And for you, again, I think that's a superpower. I can bring a bunch of different perspectives and I can have self-awareness to know not everyone needs the workhorse energy. I might be working with a 7 and actually what they need is throughput and they need the bows on the end because there's no abundance of energy or ideas.
Start this. Let's go here.
But
more variety.
They could use a Kelly that says, let's focus. And focus doesn't mean 5 things. Focus might mean 3, 2, or just one thing.
Right.
And what is done? Let's agree and get clear on that. And let's tie it. And then let's go do the next thing. Another framework, no surprise, shocker here, is opportunity versus obligation. So I learned this after the fact, but definitely wasn't as intentional as it sounds like you are before an opportunity is presented. There were a lot of things that were opportunities at a certain point in my life or career that flipped to obligation. So I'll give you an example or two. In my earlier 20s, I ran a pitch event that ran every quarter between Boulder and Denver. We saw 50 to 100 companies and we accepted 5. I did that every quarter for about 5 years. Saw hundreds of, almost thousands of companies. And maybe year 4, year 3, there was a flip where it became more of a chore than something I looked forward to as like, oh, time to open up applications and see. And then I stopped myself, I think about it the right time and thought about succession of, Micah, you have an opportunity to look at 50 to 100 companies every quarter of founders. You have your pulse on what's going on. This is an incredible opportunity. If you're busy or have done this for too long, go find the next person or people that are going to be enthusiastic about this. And so that was a time where I learned what was an opportunity became a bit of an obligation, time to get some new energy and maybe shift to an advisor or strategic role instead of an operator. Similar to nonprofit boards. I've served on a few nonprofit boards and I've asked myself, am I uniquely bringing something, again, workhorse energy, relationships, connections, enthusiasm, or am I just filling a chair or a seat? And I really want to be the former and not the latter. If it comes to a point where anyone could sit in that seat and I'm not bringing my unique skill, whatever, to the table, that's probably a time for someone else to have that opportunity. So I think the shadow, or something we had talked about before in some of the texts you sent me before, of the growth direction. So 2, the growth direction is towards the 4, right? The individualist. It's creative expression and individual perspective, connecting with personal authenticity. So again, I feel like I've really been leaning into that ladder of, hey, how do I bring my full self in work, in home? You get me. I'm one. I don't have these masks or hats or whatever I'm putting on with a different audience. But yeah, the growth direction of creative expression and individual perspective. That's just what we were talking about of, well, what do you think? I see you can show both sides and you know the other perspective and you can see it both ways, but what would you do if this was your company? What would you do if this was your project that you were in charge of? And so I do think that's probably still a growth direction and opportunity for someone who wants to help and amplify and unlock. Kelly, you have the context, you have the vision, but well, no, Mike, you have the community expertise. You've been in and around VC and startup world. So as the kids are calling it, having some more main character energy. I feel like I've been a supporting character, again, behind the scenes, amplifying other people, bouncing back praise or like, hey, Micah, thanks so much. Oh, no, it was nothing. And this person deserved, like, I'm pretty quick to do that. But I think lately I've been like, okay, wow, you have something worth sharing. You should be on the stage moderating or talking on these panels and stuff. So that's definitely a growth direction I've been stepping into, I'd say the past year or a few years that has felt good, but not completely. It's natural, but it's not. Yeah, it's a little, you have to get out of that zone of comfort, that little circle that you could easily stay in.
I love that you're questioning this and you're exploring this from a place of authentic desire and what feels true for you.
Yeah.
And I would encourage you to continue in that direction. So as a facilitator, last week I was sitting with a team of 5. They're a small nonprofit
Hmm.
and they're the whole team, right? And I sat with them for 2 days and helped them figure out what their plan was going forward. Okay. And I said to them at the very beginning, now, normally when I come in as, let's say, a planning facilitator, I come in and I commit to being very neutral. So it's about helping them think through what's right for them, what's the right next decision, the right next action for them. And it
Hmm.
is still that. And
Yep.
I also said to them, I'm also going to intentionally, at times, put my perspective into the conversation. And that was an interesting experience for me. I love what you're talking about, sharing your perspective, because why not? If you've got value to add, why withhold it? Here's an interesting question. Does you being a 2/7 show up differently at home than it does at work?
That's a good one. I totally am a helper and giver at home, and I'm a self-help professional growth junkie. And so I've read the 5 love languages. I've read the Adam Grant, the giver and the taker. And I so deeply resonate with that holistically that that's just who I am. And so the love languages, I'm like all 5. I want quality time. I want acts of service. I want all of those. They all sound great. Sign me up. I try to give where it will be well received too. But yeah, it's little things around the house of, hey, do you need anything? I do have a customer service mindset kind of across everything I do. There was someone at one of our ski days, I forget if you were there. We're up at the top. I think I was wrangling, hey, we're going to go down and we're going to go over here and have lunch. And then someone looked at me and they're like, Micah, were you ever a camp counselor? You're giving out camp counselor energy in the best way. And I'm like, not formally, but I take that as the utmost compliment. Yeah, just, is everyone okay? Are you doing okay? I think, again, that bell curve thinking about, you want to make sure you're doing okay so that you have the energy and the capacity to go help and give as much as you want to. And that's something I try to stay in touch with. But no, I try to show up with friends, community, family, work, show up with that energy.
That's bringing to mind the triads. So there's the emotional intelligence triads of the Enneagram. There's the gut, the heart, and the head. And I'm in the gut as a 9, square in the middle. And as a 2, you're in the heart triad. And what I love about if you think about these intelligence centers, we all have access to all 3 of them, but we typically lean into one more readily, more easily, right?
Yep.
And when we're making decisions or when you're in a group that's making a decision. So someone who's in the heart triad, what the Enneagram direction is that one of the values you bring is that you think about how the decision is going to impact the people, right?
Mhm.
Whereas the 7 or the 8 might just be thinking about how it's going to impact the numbers or the bottom line.
Yeah.
You're thinking, the heart folks are thinking about, okay, well, like, let's second order this, third order this. What's the impact on the people going to be? And hey, time out. Let's bring that into the conversation.
Yeah. What are the externalities to this decision, stakeholders or things that we're not thinking about?
When you talk about being the camp counselor, like thinking about, are people okay? Because if they're okay, then they can show up and be more present and be more engaged, right? And everyone can have more fun.
Yeah, totally. And with all that too, sometimes this is conscious leadership. Where do you feel that? And that's been hard for me because I feel like I say shoulders up. I'm always in my head of intellectually that feels like this, or you don't intellectually feel things. It's like you feel here. Where do you feel that emotion? What part of your body? And that's always been challenging for me. I can feel stress, the chest stress, and been to the doctor. It's not a heart thing, but like, yeah, I can feel stress in my chest.
Yeah.
It holds tightness, but it's interesting for you saying 2s are generally more like heart-based. I think I am. I bring heart and passion and these things, but as far as in tune with the feelings, shoulders down or the body, that's actually been a more challenging thing to articulate. Where do you feel that?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have my own challenges with that, but I think that's not uncommon, especially given our society, right? We're very, very much in our heads. In terms of personality assessments, especially in teams, we can use them to put ourselves and other people in a box. Like, well, you're a 6 or
Yep.
I'm a 9 and I fully identify with being a 9. And that means that I suck at this or what have you, right? So the way that I have worked on not putting myself in a box is to think about what can I channel. So let's say I'm a 9. I've got access to both wings, 8 and 1. I've been playing with the 8, the challenger. That's the not withholding. It's asking the question sooner, even if the person's going to get angry or frustrated and they think I'm putting a roadblock up because I'm asking this question, right?
Yeah.
Well, clearly putting yourself in a box wasn't an issue. I'm a 2 and a 7.
Yeah, exactly. No, that wasn't an issue. But yeah, I'm looking at the strict perfectionist. This is one of them that I have up is a 1 is a strict perfectionist or the perfectionist.
Yeah.
And then the 3 is the achiever or the competitive achiever.
Yeah.
It's interesting because like I say from my head, I'm not a perfectionist. I'm very utilitarian. Like, does this accomplish what we need? But there's aspects where I'm like, it's not going to be perfect. This tool is not going to be perfect. And you shouldn't go build your own because that doesn't make sense, even with vibe coding everything these days. So yeah, someone told me this of different types of type A. Have I told you this?
No.
So we've heard type A.
Yeah.
Within type A, there's maybe a type lowercase a. And I feel like if anything, if I am even remotely type A, it's the lowercase a, more laid back. Yeah, I like things to be pretty tidy and organized. I'm not a neat freak or color coded everything, whatever. And then there's type uppercase A, but it's like type A. And then I'd say even within there, there's type uppercase A, annotated, color coded, like to the nth degree of a type A. And I actually love working with those people because it makes it so easy to plug in, and you're a machine. Like there's no ambiguity about who needs to do what because it's color coded. It has an owner, it has a due date. So again, finding those balances to you that maybe does rein me in a little bit more on the project management or the organization type A uppercase side, because I'm an idea person. I'm a relationship person. I'm a helper and a enthusiast, but yeah, I could use that person to help me help myself.
Use the 1 to help you help yourself. Is that what you're saying?
Totally. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that the 2 goes to the 4 in growth. So that's when we're at our best. And 4s, as I understand it, there are a lot of artists that are 4s. And so a lot of access to creativity. So when you say, I've got lots of ideas, that's what shows up. That's what's coming up for me.
I wouldn't think of myself as a wildly creative in the art or classical sense. I think I'm creative with ideas. That's a good point of give myself a little more creative credit there. I like using my hands and making things, but I think in today's age, if you're not super handy, whatever, yeah, creativity comes in ideas. What are you building? What are you thinking?
I think another word for that would be generative. So
Yep.
Clearly you're generative. You're out there in the community creating things. That's generative. That's taking your creativity and making it into something, right? Just like an artist takes their vision and makes it into a painting.
Yeah, and that's a founder. Founders are wildly creative. You're creating something from nothing. This idea or concept did not exist. This company did not exist. You are willing it into existence despite everything getting thrown at you that says, that's hard. You shouldn't do that. That costs money. That hasn't been done before. You're bringing up another kind of old mantra framework of the ideas of an educated, it was man, but it's 2026, educated person. The 3 aspects of an educated person is they can entertain themselves. They're not getting bored. They're curious. They can entertain themselves. They can entertain others. So you're charismatic, you have EQ, you can read the room, you can have relationships, and then they can entertain a new idea. So they're not closed-minded, they're not below the line, they're not, oh, well, that's never been done, therefore that's a stupid idea. I've internalized that too. Are you sociable with others and yourself? Are you letting your mind wander? Because that's healthy.
It is interesting. And it also is like, oh, you're describing the perfect person.
Which we're
I
not
can
all
entertain
yet.
myself, I can entertain others, and I'm infinitely open-minded.
Yeah, well, that's up. I can be it all. I want it all. I check. Sign me up for all of them. That sounds great.
Right.
Not at all times, though. You can't always be above the line. You sometimes aren't, and that's healthy. It would be weird if you were always that.
Yeah,
robot.
you might be pretending at times, right?
Totally.
A little
Performing.
toxic. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so Enneagram 2-7, Enneagram 9. What haven't we talked about that would be a nice closure for the conversation? Is there anything that's still lingering for you?
I appreciate everything you shared. Again, Enneagram's powerful, not just because of your number and that thing. It's interpersonal dynamics, it's team dynamics, it's where do you go towards stress? Where do you go towards growth? And again, of all of them that I've seen, this one landed the best and most when I read those things. Any psychology nerds there, the DSM is the dictionary for mental health disorders and whatever. If you read something about someone, you're like, oh, you're describing this person I know. Those are all the adjectives to them. This was the closest one where I'm like, that's me. I don't disagree with any of those things that it says that twos lean towards. And maybe there's one or two, and I don't discount the whole model because of that. I'll give you an interesting anecdote of this versus astrological symbols. So for the healthy skeptics out there, of which I'm very open-minded and open-hearted about all the things and prove me right, I assume someone has something interesting to share before I am closed down about it. This one, I'm like, man, totally arbitrary. The day, time, place, year that I was born. What the heck does that have to do with anything? I forget who this was that made me open my eyes to it a little bit was, okay, well, what does the time of day or month do to water? I'm like, higher tides, lower tides. Yeah, it affects water. How much of our bodies are water as humans? 90% plus. We can get the exact stat. A lot. So could the moon position in the time and day and place, could that maybe impact some energy movements? That is the first scientific case I've heard for why that might make sense. So I'm back to open-minded about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, along the same lines as human design. Human design is kind of interesting, but it's also based on your birth data. So it's in that same bucket in my mind.
There's also math and science and beauty in nature, right? How could you design something that perfect or balanced or whatever?
I like mystery. I like the mystery of the universe. What you said about the Enneagram, I think what I love about it is so layered and you can go pretty deep with it that like you'll read something about your number or someone else's number that's going to prompt you to contemplate a little deeper, like, wait, is that true? Do I agree with that? How much do I resonate with that? That doesn't feel true at all. That actually feels like me 20 years ago. Or, hey, that feels like that'd be great. Is that possible for me? Right? So there's some aspirational stuff. There's some historical stuff. I really like how layered and depth-oriented the Enneagram is.
Yeah. And I should mention, and maybe I did to you, I'd done this work in my early 20s, which I'm glad I did. In my 3 or 4 client engagements, one, I stepped in and they said, oh, we're really big on the Enneagram and Cloverleaf here, and started using some of that shared language. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. We're talking about our numbers and how we're working. And that was such a natural fit. And then with my other 2 clients, I actually worked with a local coach here in Colorado. Shout out, hi, Blaine Kelly, if you're listening, I'll send this to her, who got my other 2 clients to do Enneagram assessment and a few others and get into Cloverleaf, and helped me lead a bit of a session with both of them so that we have a little bit more of shared understanding. One was a team of 2, me and Lindsay with Colorado Startups. That was fun. And then the other is a team of 4. Some of us are fractional or part-time. We're a distributed async team. In our offsite, we actually went through and each of us put up our 2 or 4 page summary of our types. And we went through and said, oh, that totally rings true. That one, not as much, but we did that challenging of each of those things. And it provided a lot of depth for us to understand more about each other. And that trust and connection drives trust, and trust drives performance. We're feeling that we have a groundwork of connection, understanding each other that leads to trust, that leads to us performing well as teams.
I love that. Micah, thank you so much for your time. And if someone wants to follow up with you and follow you, where should they go?
I think I'm the only Micah Mador kind of around. LinkedIn, Google, whatever. I'm on Twitter at Micah Mador. I'm on Instagram, not really on the business world, Micah Mador. My email's micahmador@gmail.com. Yeah, reach out.
Thank you. And I'll put all that in the show notes. Micah, thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful day. And I can't wait to share this episode with the world.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Hi, Kelly here. Thanks for listening to that episode with Micah Mador. He's such a great guy. And I am so grateful he spent some time with me and that we could dive into the Enneagram. Like I said in the episode, I think it's such a great tool to use for growth. So if you are curious about the Enneagram, you want to know what your number is, you want to know how you can use it for your own growth, you can get a free assessment at my website. Go to kellydwyer.co/Enneagram. I'll put that in the show notes. All right. And we can follow up and have a conversation and see what it means for you. All right. kellydwyer.co life.com/Enneagram. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time on Life from Within.